all the rules when he signed up to serve in his 60s. Imagine in your 60s. Now, I just want you to think, guys, please just think. Why would a man in his 60s want to join? Come on, why would a man in their 60s want to join the British Army?
See the world, to be in his family.
You're completely right. You could turn and say to see the world, yeah, which is correct. It's France. A lot of people wouldn't have travelled. But what did you say to me? To see his
family.
Yeah. You have 3 sons serving, and there were higher ranks than what he was. And you are 100% right. You know what? His only wish was to see his sons. Well, his age, to me and to everyone else, is old. Henry was particularly fit. He was a sportsman. And at the age of 59, Henry achieved 200 runs in cricket. He rode horses and was an exceptional golfer. Initially, he attempted to sign up and serve in any capacity, but was turned down by the British Army. Clearly a highly motivated individual. Instead of giving up, Henry tried another method. He gathered up horsemen like himself to form a company and offered their service to assist the army as a unit. Once again, the British Army rejected. Henry found his efforts rejected, but with a fire in his heart preserved, lobbying the government until he was given a commission as a battalion transport officer in 1915. Under his new role, Henry found himself sent to France, and he was serving with the 7th South Lancaster Battalion, where he helped in the preparation for the Somme offensive. As a credit to his physical fitness, most of the younger soldiers apparently did not realise Henry's true age. In a letter written to a friend, Henry spoke about the struggles, and this is a personal letter, about his job. While he reassured that he was in good health, and I want you to just listen to this, guys, please. He noted that for 4 days in a row, he had spent 21 to 24 hours on his feet. A 67-year-old. Imagine that. Yeah, we would struggle as young men, wouldn't we? Doing that. Never mind a 67-year-old man. He also wrote about how he received no end's thanks for his help. His letter was also hinted with these hopes that he might return and run into his sons. So, just like the wee bandsman said to me, he was there for his family. That was a massive, massive, massive hope that Henry had. He wanted to bump into his sons. And he also turns around and says, the sad thing, and as we look at that poppy field, look at that, it's not gorgeous? Straight in front of us. All red. Yeah. He turned around and says, and this is, he turned around and says that when he bumped into his sons, he would have to salute them, because the 3 sons were of a higher rank than what he was. Sadly, on the night of July the 21st, 1916, before Henry's letter could be received, tragedy struck. A month away from his 68th birthday, while Henry was transporting supplies, he went to join a discussion with a group of officers where a shell dropped nearby. The blast caused Henry to lose consciousness, from which he never recovered. And this cemetery that we're going into is where he is buried. Yeah, all the women, the mothers, that your husband's off the war, but you also had that hope that husband was looking after her son. And that Telegram boy coming up. Think of what she felt. And she opened it up. Not only was it her son or her husband, it was both of them. And I don't know, they were from London. I don't know how that woman coped. But she did. So guys, as I said, we're at the graveside of George Lee, who was 44, and his son, Robert Lee, who was 19. The father was a sergeant, and the son was a corporal. They were part of the field artillery. So they were serving side by side until the 5th of September 1916, during the battles of the Somme offensive. An artillery shell would fall and kill both of them. These men and his unit and other people that knew them knew to bury them side by side. Folks, I call for 1 minute silence in memory of Robert and George Lee, but also his mother and the husband of George. 1 minute silence, please.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them. Fluter! guys, in this cemetery, we also have a Victoria Cross recipient, a shot at dawn, but we have the oldest soldier that died during the Great War, which was called Lieutenant Henry Weber. I asked the group, was someone 67? And Russell is 67. So what we're going to do, in an act of remembrance, the band captain is behind us. Yep. And how poignant it is on this pilgrimage that we have someone his age. And at the last pilgrimage that I done, we had someone his age. And I just thought, ask these guys, they're the right age. Ask Emmons, could they do what this soldier done? You know what I mean? So, what we're going to do, where's our fluter? Where is he? Again, what we're going to do is behind his grave. Yep. From the South Lancaster Regiment, who died at the age of 67, months away from his 68th birthday. So I would like to call for a minute's silence, not only for him, but for all the soldiers that give us the freedom that we all enjoy today. A minute's silence.
They shall grow not old, we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
Fluger, him. Thank you very much. As I say, guys, there's a Victoria Cross, a shot at dawn. If you want, we'll go to the graves and I'll tell you a wee bit more. Guys, we're actually going to... So, the tunnel for Lochnagar Mine was started on the 11th of November 1915 by the 185th Tunnelling Company and was completed by the 179th Tunnelling Company, who took over in March 1916. The shaft down for Lochnagar Mine was sunk into the incline shaft, meaning that it was not sunk vertical, but it sloped down with an incline between 1.2 and 1.3 to a depth of 95 feet. Can anybody tell me in metres what 95 feet is? Did someone say 30 metres? You're not too far off, it's 29. Well done, well done. Country people always know that. Belfast people look at you and go, what? It was begun some 300 feet. So can anybody tell me how many metres 300 feet was? Well, you're not too far off, but you well, who said 95? Yeah, alright. 91 metres behind the British front line and 90 feet, which was 274 metres from the Germans. So we're going to give you an idea of this attack, and this, when you see it, will blow your mind. At 08:20, 8 hours following 7 days bombardment by the British Army artillery. Why were they bombarding the German line? It was going to be the Battle of the Somme. Remember what I told you about the armies? I told you about the 3rd Army being north, the 4th Army and the 5th. You are actually in the 5th Army sector. To the right, yeah, which is my left, because I'm speaking to you, yeah, is the front line. That's how close, and what we're going to do here is go through no man's land. Under the German lines, and there was going to be 8 successive waves of infantrymen of the 34th Division stood up from the trenches and went over the top. Officers in the front were ordered to walk, and what we're going to say about walking is we'll find out about the 36th Ulster Division, and it was to be the bloodiest day in British military history. The Bossel itself is on a small spur which reaches out into the valley. It was on the front of the 34th Division and was part of 3rd Corps under the command of General Sir Kilcluney. And they were advanced on the 1st of July 1916 during the first assault. He was confident that his men could, and what we're saying about the Bossel, when you're at the Bossel, at the cross, turn round. Yep, turn round. And at either side there's 2 valleys. They were called Sausage and Mash. Can anybody tell me why they were called Sausage and Mash? What does a British soldier like? Bangers and mash. Yep. And that's what they called it. Yep. That's what they called it. Sausage and mash folly. And you'll actually see that from it. So, he was so confident that the guys would get into the thing. And attacking were the Tyneside Scottish and the Northumberland Fusiliers. There was someone in this bus, was it this bus or the last bus, that had a relative on T4 Memorial? Northumberland Fusiliers. Is he here?
The other bus?
The other bus? No, he's there. He's on this bus, yeah. So, this is going to be so important. So what I would do is get a poppy cross and put the poppy cross down. So, I'm going to give you some of the facts about Loch Lagor crater. Loch Lagor crater is the largest of 17 mines that exploded on the 1st of July 1916. It was packed with 60,000 pounds of explosives. And there was 2 charges. The first one 60 feet and the other one 52 feet. The mine crater itself is 70 feet deep. 70 feet deep. And it is very, very, if you look at it, impressive. I'll give you an idea. Now, I can't prove that this was an actual fact, but people in England and Dover, it was actually, which I doubt very much, but it was actually reported that people in London heard the explosion. It is probably one of the most visited sites on the Somme front. Tyneside Irish and Tyneside Scottish, and you see a little memorial. And I'm actually going to show you something as we drive in. and you'll just see a little white cross. That little white cross is a soldier's grave, a miner. Can anybody tell me why they didn't dig up the miner and put him in a Commonwealth grave? Who? I can't hear.
Because there was a man under.
No. Is there any?
It's like a burial at sea.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is there any sailors or anybody? It's like a burial at sea. It's a war grave, so it's never ever going to be. And see the miners' graves, they're right down to the sea. So when you see that white cross, there's a soldier dead. Yeah. So this little place is called the Glory Hole, and this is where the shaft was put down. And then what they done was they mined towards Lochnagar crater. Okay? I just want to show you something here, guys. Look at the white cross. So you may laugh at the name of it. Right underneath that is a British soldier. And this is where the mines to go all the way up. And me and Johan have been everywhere. I buy Johan gifts. Johan doesn't buy me gifts. There was a wee souvenir shop as well. So you might get a wee chance to buy some souvenirs there as well. But guys, please get off. Please have a walk round. It is impressive. Days about the reality of war, and as you see there, you have Captain Thomas John Chichester Cunningham with a Y Thompson. So it was a big wing, and he was serving with the Royal Irish Fusiliers, but he was attached to the 2nd Battalion of the Royal Irish Rifles. And it would be during near enough around the area of St Quentin that the Germans would attack and he would lose his life. He was actually killed on the 24th of March 1918 at the age of 26. He was the son of George Thompson of Newry Street, Markethill. So if this doesn't bring it to you, this is your band. You parade Markethill all the time. All I'm going to ask you to do, the next time that drum rattles in Newry Street, think about this fallen soldier. It's one you leave. And say a few words if you want.
Just on behalf of the band, I would like to lay this poppy cross on behalf of Thompson of the Royal Irish Fusiliers from Newry Street, Markethill, and
he's just not the only Markethill soldier that fell. And when I was speaking to Lee and I was speaking to Ivan, I was naive at some of that, and it was like parishes, townlands, and this is what we're going to do. And this, your band has a massive history with the Great War. Really, really massive, and the sacrifice that was given. Now, the research that I've done is probably not as intense of what it could be. All it was just a search on the Commonwealth graves. Many other soldiers, what we have passed, have been Markethill boys. And let me tell you something, this band has a great reputation on the band scene. Everyone's saying about you taking out the Kilcluney. I says, yes, right? You have a great reputation out there. But also, don't forget, when you beat that drum and you play that flute on Newry Street, remember the soldier. Guys, it would be wrong with me to come to this graveyard and this cemetery, and it is a memorial to the missing, which has under 15,000 names. Just where Jim is at the minute. This is what Jim does. He goes round and he looks, and he'll say to me at the end of the day, "Why, Phil? Why?" And you see Jim looking. Near enough 15,000 soldiers that don't have a known grave. What we have here is Second Lieutenant Edmund de Wind, and he was serving with the 36th Ulster Division when the Germans attacked. The position was overrun by the Germans, and they held out against all odds. They held out. How bad was it that the war diary from that date from the 15th Battalion was destroyed because the soldiers were not given that to the Germans? Edmund de Wind done valour to the very highest, rallied the men, and he made sure, even though he was surrounded, and Edmund de Wind at some stage must have thought, all the odds are against me, but he stood and he stood until he fell. How good the 15th Battalion, and as you all know, I'm a 15th Battalion man myself, coming from North Belfast, is that they wiped out a battalion of Germans. They were bringing in another battalion, and the boys went, "Do you know what? It's going against us," and they surrendered. And the commanding officer of the Germans came up, shook their hand and says, "By God, you guys can fight." Then the 36th Ulster Division, the remaining of which would be regimental headquarters, he turned in and says, "You wiped out a battalion of us. We were bringing in a new fresh battalion. They attack us." Can you imagine that? Surrounded, and what they done, they burnt the war diary. It's not there, it's missed as such. And what we have is the Victoria Cross recipient. And we'll do this cross, everything we'll do is of the 36th Ulster Division. I'm probably going to go back to the McFadden, William McFadden. I'm probably going to comment something that I've seen his great nephew say, and he asked for, please don't put blue tack and poppy crosses or poppy things beside it, because believe it or not, it rots the thing. So we have Edmund de Wind. At least we'll forget. So,
Lieutenant de Wind, on behalf of the officers and the members of Kilcluney LOL 132.
Under 35,000 for it. But what we're going to do is we're going to follow a football trail. Can we be the order, please? Because there is people that's, yep. So what we're going to do is follow the football trail. We're going to talk about any Rangers fans. So we have Rangers fans. Big shout out. Any Rangers fans? Yeah! Yep. This was the player that never played for you. It's a guy called Walter Tull. And if you remember rightly, there's the Tull Memorial Cup. And it's against what Premiership football team? Tottenham and Rangers. Yep. So he's the guy that never played for you. Also, there is just round the corner a Celtic player. And if you take away colours, guys, and this is the thing that Alan Brydon once told me. Take away the colours. They were wearing the uniform and they were fighting for king and country. And Alan Brydon also told me one thing, that bullets, and it's a song that Alan Brydon wrote, and what it is the bullet will hit you regardless of what football team or whatever colours that you carry. So we have a guy called Peter Johnson from Celtic. Also what we've got is a fantastic footballer of his time, and we're going to tell you about Sandy Turnbull, who played for Manchester United. But that story is a magnificent story. So all I'm going to do is tell you the story of Walter Tull. Daniel John Tull was born in Folkestone, Kent on the 28th of April 1888, and he died in northern France on the 25th of March 1918. The first black outfield player to feature in English top flight football. Tull spent 2 years at Tottenham Hotspurs before going to play over 100 games for Northampton Town. During World War I, Tull joined the British Army and would later become the first black officer to lead white troops in the battle. After serving on the Western Front and Italian fronts, Tull was killed in action on the 25th of March 1918 at the young age of 29. His football career. Tull began his football career at an East London amateur side called Clapton. Not Clapton Orient, Clapton, where he would later win the London Senior Cup, the FA Amateur Cup and the London County Amateur Cup during the seasons of 1908 to 1909. His short time at Forest Gate came to an end soon, and he was invited to join Tottenham Hotspur on their pre-season tour to South Africa in the summer of 1909. Impressing, Tull was offered a professional terms by the club and duly signed ahead of the 1909 to 1910 campaign. Handed his debut and a 3-1 loss at Sunderland on the 1st of September 1909. Tull was soon praised for his early performances, but always would face prejudice because of his colour and racial abuse from the terraces. After making a further 5 appearances, Tull was dropped from the first team and would not play until the 24th of December 1910, when Spurs won 3-1 at Nottingham Forest. He would then score in a 1-1 home draw with Manchester City, 3 days later making his final appearance for Tottenham and a 2-0 defeat against Woolwich Arsenal. Soon after, Woolwich Arsenal. Soon after, Tull left White Hart Lane and he signed for a team called Herbert Chapman's Northampton Town. The move to the ground would prove to be a dignifying moment in Tull's career after making his debut against Watford on the 21st of October 1911. He would later on become an integral part of Clapton's side. Over the next 3 consecutive seasons, Tull would score 9 times in 110 games, and would flourish still with his managers that switched from a traditional half-back to an inside forward role. By the time he played his final game for Northampton, Tull became one of the club's most popular players. After joining the British Army in December 1914, Hull returned to Britain on an officer's training course and agreed to play in principle. This is what you have to mind, all you Rangers fans, and in principle agreed to play for the Scottish club Glasgow Rangers. Despite signing terms on the 2nd of February, Tull would return overseas after having made no official appearances for the club. His First World War service. Private Tull enlisted into the 17th Service Battalion of the Middlesex Regiment, which was known as the 1st Football Battalion. On the 21st of December 1914, he would spend time at Carley, Clipston Camp and Plymouth Down. Tull would also earn promotion, and by the time he landed in France on the 18th of November 1915, he was an acting sergeant. In May 1916, Tull was sent back to Britain, suffering what was recorded on his medical records as acute anesthesia, but soon to be known as shell shock. He would later return to action, and with this, by the time he took part on the fighting on the Somme at a little place called Devil Wood, which the troops known as Devil's Wood, Guillemont and Redham Ridge during the Somme offensive. After a period in hospital, this time suffering from a bout of trench fever, Sergeant Tull was sent to Scotland in January 1917 to attend officer training. After overcoming significant opposition, he eventually completed the course and was commissioned as a 2nd Lieutenant, initially to the 5th Battalion of the Middlesex Regiment. 2nd Lieutenant Tull joined the 23rd Battalion, known as the 2nd Footballers Battalion, and on the 4th of August 1917, after taking part in the 3rd Battle of Ypres, the battalion was sent to Italy in November 1917, where Tull is believed to become the first black officer to lead white troops in the battle. Tull was mentioned in dispatches after a trench raid on the 1st of January 1918 and recommended for the Military Cross, which was not granted. The 23rd Middlesex then returned to France and were in position near Burgundy when the Germans launched their spring offensive on the 23rd of March 1918. And that's where Edmund de Wind, 2nd Lieutenant Edmund de Wind, that's where he would get his Victoria Cross. 2 days later, the battalion came under intense hurricane bombardment west of Arras Road and suffered heavy casualties during a forced withdrawal. Amongst the dead was 2nd Lieutenant Hull, who was hit by machine gun fire as he attempted to rally his men. Despite the attempts to bring in the 20-year-old officer back to the British lines, every time that the soldiers and his men tried to get him, they were checked by enemy fire. Things there in that little thing that I wrote, read out, should I say. And the number one was the footballing connection. What we had is, when the troops were out of the line, the thing that kept the troops all together was football. And the Middlesex regiment had the 1st and 2nd Battalion of the footballers. And anyone hear of a guy called Jimmy Spears? Well, yep, and we'll talk about him when we're up in Belgium. And these guys, believe it or not, were the elite of the elite. So and then what we'll do, we'll actually pick up the footballing connection when we're doing fleurs and cult of my song. But it didn't matter where or what colours you wore. If a bullet had your name on it and hit you, when the bullet hit you, it didn't go, what football colours do you wear? There was no best way to describe it. They didn't care, and that's why Alan Braden wrote the songs. Bullets will hit you no matter who you are. Do you want to hear the song?
Yes.
At a little place called Landmark, where we actually heard Jimmy's song for the first time. And it was actually the British government. Imagine, all I'm going to say to you is the mayor got up and he turned and says, now, bear in mind, Russell, all the rough good boys are there, right? And he turned and says, would you like to come back from refreshments? And a wee bit late. And remember how Jody Crawford, Croggy? He says, happy days, drinking food. I'm on back. And it was the British and Irish government there, we didn't know at the time. And we got started talking and Alan Braden got up and says, I'm going to sing a song about a Rangers player, right? And the next thing, the whole place went, whoa, Rangers. The truth be told, the people who remembered Jimmy Spears at the very start was all people from Bradford City. They were all Bradford men. And they were staying in the same hotel that we were staying at, Russell. And later they were going, oh, he played for Rangers, he played for Bradford City. He actually scored the winning goal in the FA Cup final for Bradford City. So it was all Bradford, right? And Alan Bryan says, don't worry lads, I'm a Rangers fan, so there'll be a Rangers fan there. And you probably see from his grave, the bands are now all playing the songs from Alan Bryan. One of the first bands to play the songs, which I believe, and maybe someone can and say, well, Phil, you're not right there, was Rough Cool Protestant Boys, and it was a guy who's no longer here, a guy called Michael Page, who was a great soldier, a great friend of mine, Page from Upstown, Bristol. And he heard the songs, and I remember him introducing me to all the music. And it's amazing how sometimes in life repays you, and it's sometimes you go to yourself, how did we do it? How did we do it? And we were invited to the opening of a memorial near Landmark. And the next thing is, it's nowhere to lie, this guy comes out with a guitar, and I said to Jim English, I said, Jim, that's your mom, Alan Bryan. No, it's not. And at this stage here, Alan Bryan's music was starting to get into the band scene, because you had playing On the Road to Passchendaele. There was only 2 songs, On the Road to Passchendaele and Calling Down the Line. Yeah. So the next thing was, I went up into Landmark, right? You can just imagine me, this wee man from Rough Cool, right? And I'm the mayor, brilliant Phil, thank you very much. Thanks for ringing my bus low ways and blah blah blah. And I went up to Alan Bryan and I went, Alan, my mate Jim English adores you. He adores you that much that he plays your music, right? That's nowhere to lie, right? That's no word of a lie, right? And I think it's somewhere in social media. It is in social media. So Alan said, I says, he loves playing Calling Down the Line. And would you believe this? Jim English and Alan Braden in a town hall with all the Irish government and the British government, and there's Jim singing "Calling Down the Line," and it was absolutely brilliant. And afterwards, that's when he turned around and says that he had another song, and I'm trying to think of the guy's name, and I know we're being filmed here at the minute, and it's no disrespect to him, it's just not in my head at the minute, you know what I mean? But Alan says, can I sing a song? And Ralph Cool, Somme Society were the first one to hear Jimmy's song. And the boys went, that's absolutely brilliant. We all looked at each other and went, who's Jimmy Spears? And from it, Jimmy has become an ironic hero for Rangers Football Club. But the truth be told, guys, the truth to be told, it was mostly all Bradford City fans that were over there, and that's what gave Jimmy his name. So you've heard the 36 Finest, have you? Does the band play the 36 Finest? Not yet, but you will. So I built up a relationship with Alan Braden, and what we've done with Alan Braden, we invited Alan Braden over to a venue in Northern Ireland. Well, Russell, you'll know this venue. This venue is probably one of the most prestigious venues in the whole of Northern Ireland, the Monkside Club. Right? I swear to God. So we got Alan Braden over, and a very good friend of mine keeps in contact with, and he came over and he played, and I kept on to Alan and says, Alan, please, you're going to have to do a song about the 36 Ulster Division. And what he done, it's called The Finest. So we'll put that on as well, yeah, and you'll get to hear that. The first band to play The Finest, believe it or not, was Rough Cool Protestant Boys, because I was tortured by Logie. Logie said to me, he knew something was going on in the background, and Logie said to me, I heard you talking about a song coming out. So, see when that song came out, see within about half an hour, Logie being Logie, and if anyone knows Logie, he's brilliant on that flute. Harry does it. I grew up with Logie, right? So, see when I got Scale Electric, you know what he got? Say drum. No way. See when I got that wee fort and soldiers, Logie got a band pole. That's just the way it was. He's just all into the bands, and that's how it all came about. And isn't it great that we can talk about all this? You know what I mean? So they were the first band to actually play Rough Cool Protty Boys, The Finest. So what I'm going to do, guys, I'm going to try and get the two things, and I'm going to try and get. I'm going to have a non-native player here, which was the biggest scandal of the time. And it didn't matter. In my bus, what I was saying to the guys was, bullets didn't matter who you were or what colours you wore. The bullet was going to hit you, and I didn't care what football team you supported or not. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the Rangers player that had given a verbal agreement to Rangers that he would play, the first black officer, the first black professional footballer, where not sectarian should I say, racial abuse was given to that guy. Even when he joined the British Army, he was given racial abuse. So what we're going to do is, Walter Tull would always be, even though he didn't play for Rangers, he had in principle said that he was going to join, he would always be associated with Rangers Football Club as a great. Would that be right? Walter Tull is mine. You put your arm around. So there's Abel coming down. And Walter Tull. And there he is there. There's his name. He has no known grave. A Rangers player that sang in principle and never got the opportunity to play. I said to a couple who were in my bus, the people who was in my bus, was there's actually a tournament now that takes place, the Walter Tull Memorial, and it's against Spurs and Rangers. So what we're going to do, guys, is lay a poppy cross in memory of Walter Todd. I think it's important that as bands, inside left for Celtic, he played 233 games, scored 19 goals and won 13 trophies, 4 league titles, 2 Scottish Cups, 3 Glasgow Cups and 4 Glasgow Charity Cups. Ironic, isn't it, guys, that we'll have a Rangers player who never played but signed in principle, and around the corner was Peter Johnson, the player for Celtic. Now, I'm a Newcastle fan, and we don't even go into the alley and all that, right? So all I'm going to say is, this is a guy who was one of the greats, and do you know what? He never got pardoned for what they'd done, and he's just over here, guys. Is Sunday. He played for Man City and he played for Man United. Can I go and see what says Lance Sergeant? You see Turnbull? Yep. Yep. Alexander Sunday Turnbull. And they would be part of a match-fixing match that happened, and they were all expelled from professional football. Even though I was over here, he actually tried, and the rest of them tried to override. Look, we're over here, we're doing this, we're with the British Army, but the FA would not let it happen, and that's our last casualty. One of the greats of football, the Beckhams, the Fodens, you talk about Owen, you talk about them all. This guy here was one of the greats, so much in front of him, and what he done was he gave up the football for a rifle and a gun. And there he is in the Arras Memorial, the missing, and he was served with the 8th Battalion of the East Sussex Regiment, and he died on the 3rd of May 1917 at the age of 33. When the boys were in the trenches to play football, in that battalion, who do you think is the first name they're putting down? His name, aren't they? Get him on the team sheet. And this is where we are. Guys, I really hope that you've enjoyed it. It's been a long day for most of you, hasn't it? Really hope that you've enjoyed it. Tomorrow, it's all about the bands and the lodge, yeah, where we're doing a lot of parades. So from me, thank you for your attention, and I know it's been a long day. Thanks very much. And remember, it's Sunday.
his love goodbye. The flower of dear old Ulster that will never wither and die. Across the seas he traveled to a land so far away, where generations of loyal hearts were sacrificed that day. He took with him a lily when he kissed his love goodbye. The flower of dear old Ulster that will never wither and die. It was only an orange lily she pinned upon his breast. On a cold and early July morn they laid him down to rest. Now the only flowers that bloom in the poppy field so red is the orange lily of Ulster that will flower over his head. Now she sits and dreams her memories, for her love has never died. And time will grant her wishes and take her to his side. Through the years she treasured the day they said goodbye. She whispered, "Take my love with you, it will never wither and die." It was only an orange lily that she pinned upon his breast. On a cold and early July morn they laid him down to rest. Now the only flower that blooms in the poppy field so red is the orange lily of Ulster that will flower over his head. All these wartime stories I hear before me brings tears to my eyes of how those men fought and died. I may not have known them, but they are the reason that I am here today. I owe a lot to them, so I'm going to remember those men that lost their lives. On the 11th of November, raise a glass to absent friends. Take a minute to remember what those men fought to save. 1 minute silence is all we ask for. Do you think you could give them that today? Yeah, yeah, on Remembrance Day. They left Ulster to fight for their culture, but they did not expect to die and not return back. A grieving daughter had to bury her father. Now, do you understand why I stand to remember those men? 'Cause I am forever proud to be part of Ulster's land. Raise a glass to absent friends. Take a minute to remember what those men fought to say. 1 minute silence is all we ask for. Do you think you could give them that today? On Remembrance Day. On the 11th of November, raise a glass to absent friends. Take a minute to remember what those men fought to say. 1 minute silence is all we ask for. Do you think you could give them that